The following segment is sponsored by Daniel A. White and Associates. It does not necessarily reflect the views of WDEL or Forever Media.
The Rick Jensen Show on 101.7 FM, 1150 AM, WDEL, and streaming to your smart speaker and mobile device.
Well, I've been a happy camper client of Dan White and Associates for many, many years. Financial planners specializing in retirement income. One of the guys that I really enjoy talking. Actually, I like all these folks. I like talking with all of them, whether it's Dan White, Dan Simon, Andrew Wood is on the phone right now, because they all bring something very, very special to the table, and that's a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. Andrew, how you doing, sir?
Doing great, Rick. How are you doing today?
All right. Well, it's the day after, right? So, there's celebration, there's angst, there's worry. People don't know what to expect. And, I always said this on my entire life and taught this to my kid. Life is really about expectations, whether it's a dinner date or a marriage proposal. You just want to know what to expect. and so I think that's what's happening today too. You get a lot of propaganda, you got a lot of angst and a lot of yelling and blaming and celebrating, and people don't know what to expect. You guys, when you do your research, I know you simply look at, well, here's what's happening with the IRS, here's what's happening with Social Security, and honestly, whether it was Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, no one knows what to expect from Social Security, right?
Yeah, no, you're spot on with that. I think a lot of us we're up a little bit too late last night. I don't have cable. I think I mentioned that to you. So yeah, right. I was up scrolling and things like that. But, I was just thinking about, because you're right, there are a lot of people that are nervous, in particular about what's going to happen with, taxation and things like that. And I'll tell you, that's actually obviously part of, building a retirement plan is making sure that our clients aren't paying, too much of taxes and things like that. So I will just tell you, a few things that, at least with the election results, I think people should be aware of. I think I mentioned to you about 2-3 months ago when the first idea about eliminating tax on Social Security came out.
Yeah.
You recall that?
And I was reading a lot of analysis, of course I do, about that. And you have economists who are worried about how much now that would cut out of the federal government, because, a part of that revenue comes from taxing Social Security itself. But they never really report on, potential cuts in spending overall. But yes, I do remember.
Yeah, so, it's one of those things where I think taxation of Social Security is number one, misunderstood to begin with. I'm just reading an article actually from NBC that's saying only about 40% of Social Security recipients actually pay federal income taxes. So, but they may eliminate that. I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. I will tell you, just looking at things, it's going to be really interesting to see what the actual proposal is. What really interested me the most is, and this is a question I'm shocked that hadn't been asked, was really about, what's going to happen with the standard deduction. Yeah. Because that was one of the things that had happened, with the original, tax bill that was passed, our tax law, was that, basically that they doubled the standard deduction. It looks like that's going to remain intact, but I'm not, we're not sure what's going to happen there. But I will tell you that certainly helped a lot of retirees when they did double that standard deduction. So. No one answered what was going to happen either side. Whether they were going to maintain that or keep that. But it does look like obviously that should remain intact. So that's typically a good thing, especially for retirees. Now that said, again, about 60% of Social Security recipients don't pay federal income taxes at all anyway. So it's one of those things where, if I look at things. They haven't changed, and they use what's called the provisional income threshold. You can look this up, but this is how they determine how much of your Social Security benefits are taxable, whether it's tax-free, 50% taxable, or 85% taxable. The one thing I will point out is they haven't changed those thresholds since they were created. The 50% threshold was created in 1983, and the 85% threshold was created in 1993. They haven't been adjusted $1 or one bit since those years. So in my opinion, and again, I don't know what's going to happen here, but usually there's a bit of compromise. And I've been reading economists and things like that about the tax proposal, and more than likely what I see is that they will probably make adjustments to those thresholds. Mm-hmm. instead of necessarily eliminating the whole thing. So I don't know what's going to happen, obviously.
No, we don't know because
that I would see happen.
Neither one of them addressed that except let's see. Trump said Kamala will ruin it. Kamala said Trump would ruin it, and would ruin it. And then Kamala said, "Well, we're going to tax people making up to $400,000 a year." Well, that's obviously not going to fix the whole thing. You want to fix the whole thing? Then tax everybody, no matter how much they're making.
Right.
And that'll fix everything. Of course, the millionaires and billionaires don't want that, whether they're Democrats or Republicans. They don't want that. So good luck with that. So I think you're right about the thresholds. The thresholds for retiring, they're going to make it 70, 73, 74. Who knows what they're going to make it. And again, the income threshold. That they're going to have to adjust the income threshold because there are just not enough working people right now to support the number of baby boomers who are retiring, right?
Yeah, I mean that's spot on. Again, there's in my opinion, with where we are with the debts and the deficits, I think at some point they're going to have to cut costs, they're going to have to cut spending, and they're going to have to raise revenue. But again, that's where a lot of the planning comes into play when it comes to retirement. Because most people, the bulk of their savings is in the pre-tax retirement savings, the IRAs, the 401ks, and things like that. So. I think it's about having a plan that's adjustable, in the event that we do see some significant changes down the road. But here's the one thing, we were all probably anxious. Either side doesn't matter. We were all anxious last night. We're probably still a little anxious today. But it's amazing. I think we all woke up this morning and, life goes on. So, it's one of those things. We will certainly make adjustments and, we'll adapt. And that's kind of.
Well, in your business, I've given my take about what I'm hopeful for, and then again, you've got a lot of people who are just afraid, and I think a lot of that tragically comes from the 24/7 news cycle and news outlets that decided to become opinion outlets, and they scare the hell out of people. And again, I know we don't talk about politics a lot in this segment, but I'll say it: Trump doesn't help himself when it comes to those who are going to, try to magnify what he's saying in order to increase their viewership and their revenue. But in what you do, I was reading a poll that about 61% of working Americans are more afraid of retiring than dying. I thought, wow. Okay, that's pretty scary, pun intended. So,
yeah.
So in what you do, How do you assuage those fears? What do you do?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, again, we're human beings. We're all emotional human beings, but you got to take the emotion out of it. But on top of that, I think it's about having a plan. It's providing a little bit more clarity or certainty in terms of your individual financial future, and I think that's really important. If you can control the things that you can control, and try to not worry and get too emotional, when certain things happen. What tends to happen is you sleep better.
That's true.
You live better.
Yeah,
and you live longer.
I had to get over that many years ago. I would succumb to that every once in a while, worrying about those things I cannot control, and
that's right.
You can't control it, so. You do worry about it, you're just going to worry yourself to death. And so you just try to work on that which you can control, and then the rest of it is day to day or week to week. So I love the fact that you guys work with folks on that sort of a level. Say, listen, we don't know what's really going to happen with taxes in 5-10 years, but here's what happens historically. Here's where we are. Here's what we suspect is going to happen, and let's plan accordingly. I appreciate that. So, by the way, folks, you just tuned in. It's Andrew Wood. He's a financial planner specializing in retirement income with Dan White & Associates. Dan White has a program here on Sunday mornings at 7 a.m. called On the Money, right?
Spot on. And this Sunday's radio show topic is the critical parts of Social Security retirement benefits. So some of the ins and outs, benefits, whether that's delaying or taking early, taxation, things like that.
Yeah, there's one thing that I know Dan talked about a year ago, I think, or so, and I hadn't heard more about it. I'm hoping he gets to that on Sunday, and that is this. You wait to 70 or so, you can take a lump sum. But if you do so, that can actually reduce your monthly amount? I'm not even sure if that's if I'm getting that right. So...
Yeah, that's complicated, and I know people do have that urge on occasion because it's sometimes offered to them. meaning you've foregone a year, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years of payments, and then they'll say, well, do you want them? But if you do that, you'll get a lump sum, you're taxed on it, and then they basically revert your benefit back to what it would have been.
Ouch.
At your full retirement age. But for most people, if they're delaying, they're delaying it just to receive that larger check, the higher check in retirement. So that would, they're going to give you a lump sum, but it's going to kind of blow that plan out of the water,
Yeah, is that if you wait, so you get full retirement at 70 nowadays, right? So does that mean if you retire at 70 and you get a lump sum that's based upon what you could have gotten at 65, and then your amount every month is reduced to what?
It wouldn't be at 65. It would be from your full retirement age benefit. So that's either between 66 in a few months, all the way up to 67 at this point.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a good idea to me. That's just me. I'm just saying. Wait till you're 70 if you can. Keep on working. And that's the way I feel. It's just, well, you know what? Keep on working, man, until something happens with inflation, and you will just see. La-di-da. So, it
can be very enticing, but you gotta have a plan and stick to that plan as much as possible.
And you guys are good with that. You really are. And I appreciate you. Andrew Wood, Dan White and Associates, give them a call. 888-690-8820. Doesn't charge you anything. Sit down, make a plan your work your plan, right? And that's 888-690-8820. Andrew, thanks for your time, man. Always a pleasure to talk with you.
Thanks, Rick. Take care.
All right, buddy.